Hey everybody, this is Road to Recovery, and today we're going to be discussing intentionality. For those of you who follow this channel, you probably already know that I stress a lot of organizational related subjects, such as goal setting, mindfulness, and planning. But there is a common topic that all of these things have. It's intentionality. And I think intentionality is perhaps the one thing you should reflect on the most if you are struggling with pornography. As I've discussed on this channel, habit forming develops in a separate area of the brain than the other cognitive functions. So everything that makes up your ability to think and act, the so-called executive thinking, sits at the front of your skull, while the habit forming behaviors are stored in the so-called lizard brain near the base of the skull. These brain functions work hand in hand, meaning that your executive reasoning takes into account your primal thoughts, such as pain, pleasure, habits, and routines, before making any decisions. And if you don't exercise critical thought, you might be prone to being an autopilot. And take a second here to think about that. Have you ever been driving down your road or out of the house and then all of a sudden arrive at a destination without any memory of the trip there? Well, routines are like that. The reason routines are so pragmatic in sports is because it stops that few milliseconds of executive functioning that might slow down performance. Ever watch a batter in batting practice if you follow baseball? Or see your wide receiver running routes while in football? They do that over and over and over again until it's basically a second nature. That so-called muscle memory is really your lizard brain taking the wheel. So we can acknowledge that the autonomous behavior can be both a good and a bad thing. In other words, it has both positive and negative outcomes. It's great if you're an athlete training for an event. It's bad if you're trying to break a harmful habit. With a pornography habit, I found the best tactic is to be using intentionality. With intentionality, you wrestle your brain's executive control back into the driver's seat. You can't allow the cravings to steer the ship. Intentionality has to happen the second you wake up. When your eyes blink open from the pillow, you should start with something intentional. If you're a pornography addict, I would start with a positive affirmation that has nothing to do with your addiction. How about, I am going to paint the house, and it's gonna rock. Or, maybe you got something going on at work. I'm going to finish the project this week. The affirmation is the start of the intentional thinking. And just like muscle memory, it's something you have to practice on a regular basis. So, in effect, even though you're using your cognitive abilities to start this intentionality, eventually it starts to become a good practice just like anything else. However, it doesn't end at the beginning. For me, my morning starts with coffee, talking with my daughter before she goes to school, and then planning my day. I sit down with two planners. One day planner has a to-do list where I brainstorm all the things that need to get done. A lot of times it's yoga, meditation, 10 to 12 hours of work-related items, paying bills, etc. With the second day planner, I write down all the times I will be accomplishing this task. And if you're familiar with SMART goals, this is exactly the exercise of doing your SMART goals. So you start off with an idea, you refine the idea, and you put a time to it. It seems pretty straightforward, right? What am I doing? I'm not allowing idle time into my life. I'm not allowing the lizard brain to take the wheel. If I sit in front of the computer without being intentional, well then chances are I'll be casually browsing, which is a pathway to poor behaviors. When your addictive behaviors involve being on a computer, you have to set hard boundaries on what is and isn't permissible. I know that I can't casually browse the internet. I have to be intentional with everything I do. If I don't have a good reason for the computer being on, then I won't sit in front of one. And I always vet my reasoning before taking action. Sometimes the addiction can sucker you into a poor decision making, especially with all the clickbait ads out there. My advice is to start your day with intentionality and find ways of keeping intentional behaviors throughout your day. Mantras are a good start, and task management and boundary setting are also good intentional behaviors to help you on your process of recovery. Well, that's all for now. This is Road to Recovery, and thanks for listening. Please subscribe if you like the content, and stay strong in your recovery efforts.